All right, let's jump right in. Today we're talking about PARIVESH 3.0, and this is a really big deal. It's basically a deep dive into how India is using some seriously advanced tech to solve one of the oldest problems out there. How do you build a country without destroying it in the process?
And that really is the heart of the matter, isn't it? I mean, think about it. You've got a nation of 1.4 billion people that needs new roads, new factories, new power plants, you name it. But how do you build all that at lightning speed without getting completely bogged down in endless red tape, or worse, causing irreversible harm to your forests, your wildlife, and your coastlines?
So what's the answer? Well, it's not just hiring more people or printing more forms. It's a total paradigm shift. It's about igniting a digital revolution in the one place you might not expect it: environmental governance.
To really get this, we first have to understand the core conflict here, what we're calling the development dilemma. On one hand, you've got this incredible non-stop push for growth and infrastructure. But on the other hand, you have a really deep commitment to protecting the environment. For years, these two things have basically been in a constant tug of war.
And this is where our story really begins. To cut through that knot, India came up with something called a single window solution. The idea is to have one front door, one single point of entry for this incredibly complex process. And that solution has a name: PARIVESH.
So let's talk about PARIVESH. Now, the full name is a bit of a mouthful. It stands for Proactive and Responsive Facilitation by Interactive, Virtuous and Environmental Single Window Hub. But honestly, what it does is beautifully simple. Instead of developers running from ministry to ministry with giant stacks of paper, they now go to one single website for pretty much every major environmental approval they need.
And we're not talking about small stuff here. The scope of this thing is huge. It consolidates the 4 biggest, most complicated approvals in Indian environmental law: getting clearances for the environment, for forests, for wildlife, and for coastal zones. I mean, each one of these used to be its own bureaucratic maze. Now, they're all living under one digital roof.
But look, a system this ambitious doesn't just appear overnight. It's been on a journey, evolving and getting smarter with each new version. And that journey really tells a bigger story about how governance itself is changing in the digital age.
You can really see the evolution here. Back in 2018, it started out as a pretty basic online portal. You could think of it as a digital mailbox, really. Then, in 2021, version 2.0 took a big step forward by actually weaving those 4 different approvals together. But the real leap, the game changer, is PARIVESH 3.0. This is where AI and deep geographic data come into play, turning it from a simple filing cabinet into an intelligent thinking machine.
Okay, so what exactly makes this new system so smart? Let's pop the hood and take a look inside. There are a few key features that are totally changing the way these approvals get done.
First up, its entire backbone is built on something called Geographic Information Systems, or GIS. The simplest way to think about this is using smart, layered digital maps to make way better decisions right from the get-go.
And this is where it gets really cool. Just imagine you can stack dozens of transparent digital maps on top of each other. Okay, so one map shows all the forest cover. The next one shows tiger corridors. Another one shows protected wetlands. Now, when a company uploads the exact coordinates for, say, a new factory, the system instantly compares that location against all those layers. It can flag in seconds: hey, wait a minute, this is way too close to a national park, or this spot is right in the middle of a known elephant corridor. So potential showstoppers that used to take months of site visits to find are now identified almost instantly.
The next big upgrade is the brain of the operation: artificial intelligence. And this isn't just some buzzword they're throwing around. The AI is actually in there, doing the hard work of streamlining the most tedious parts of this whole process. The AI basically acts like a super efficient assistant for everyone involved. If you're an applicant, it can actually give you a prediction of how long your approval might take. And if you're a government regulator, it's a massive time saver. It automatically scans all the submitted documents to make sure everything's there. So it flags an incomplete file before a human ever has to waste their time on it. That means the experts can focus on what they do best: actual environmental science, not just checking boxes.
And finally, there's this really clever feature that solves a very specific but incredibly common problem that used to hold up projects all the time, especially ones that involve forest land.
So here's the deal. In India, if your project uses forest land, the law says you have to provide a different piece of land to plant a new forest. It's called compensatory afforestation. But finding that land, man, that used to be a huge headache and could delay projects for years. What PARIVESH does is create a digital land marketplace.
State forest departments upload all the available land parcels into a database. Developers can then just log in, search for suitable land, and select it. It's such a simple, elegant solution to a really complex puzzle.
So who's actually logging into this thing? Well, it's a whole ecosystem of people. You've got the project proponents, the companies that are actually building things. You've got government agencies at the national and state level. And super important, you have independent scientific expert committees who provide the technical reviews. And for the very first time, they are all working together in the exact same digital space.
Okay, so we've seen the nuts and bolts, but what's the actual impact? What does all this tech really mean on the ground? Well, the results are all about making the entire process faster, smarter, and a whole lot more transparent for everyone.
And here's a number that really tells the story. Even with the first version of PARIVESH, the average time it took to get a major environmental clearance dropped from over 150 days down to less than 100. Now, with all the new AI and GIS tools, the goal is to make that even quicker and more reliable.
You can see the impact across the board, right? Faster approvals mean fewer expensive delays for big projects. Total digital transparency means no more physical files getting lost on someone's desk. And maybe the biggest long-term benefit is that this system is building a massive, central environmental database for the entire country, which is going to be an absolutely priceless tool for making policy in the future.
When you step back and look at the big picture, this isn't just about a new government website. This is a fundamental change in how a nation balances the twin goals of development and environmental protection.
And this right here, this is the key takeaway. The whole philosophy is shifting away from just processing paper documents to making decisions based on live, dynamic data. We are literally moving from stacks of files to intelligent map layers and predictive analytics. The decisions are being backed by information you can actually see and verify. See, the real magic of PARIVESH is its power to connect the dots. It's not just a standalone system. It plugs into the National Space Agency's mapping portal, it pulls data from the Forest Survey, from wildlife institutes, even from state land records. What's being built here is a single, interconnected ecosystem for environmental decision-making on a truly national scale.
And that, of course, brings us to the final and most important question. This technology, without a doubt, makes the process of giving approvals faster and way more efficient. But the ultimate test will be this. Can it also make the quality of environmental protection smarter and stronger? As we speed up the green light, can we be sure we're not cutting corners on protection? Finding that perfect balance, well, that's what will truly define the success of this digital revolution.